Hi everyone, this is Angel with Tech Tutelage, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to install the latest WordPress on Oracle Cloud. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and log into your Oracle Cloud account, and from there we're going to go ahead and build our new instance. And to do that, if you have it pinned like me here, you can just go ahead and click on Instances. If not, you're going to have to go click on this hamburger menu, go to Compute, and then Instances. And then once you're here, you can go ahead and click on this Create Instance button. Once you're in this menu here, you can go ahead and give your instance a name. I'm going to call mine WordPress, and then you can scroll down a little, and here I'm going to go ahead and change my shape of my instance. So I'm going to make it, instead of AMD, I'm going to use the Ampere. And if you're not aware, just want to let you know that with the free Oracle Cloud tier, you can have up to 4 CPUs and 24 gigs of RAM. So if you want, you can use the maximum allowed, which will give you 24 gigs of RAM and 4 CPUs. In my case, I don't really care having such a big instance, so I'm just gonna go and get 1 CPU and 6 gigs of RAM. That will be plenty for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this blue button that says select shape here, and that would pick my shape. And then the next thing I want to do is I'm gonna go ahead and change my operating system from Oracle Linux to Ubuntu. So you can go ahead and click on canonical Ubuntu here, and then you can go ahead and click on select image. Once you have your shape and your image selected, you can go ahead and scroll down a little bit here. So under networking, sometimes it pre-populates it for you. In my case, it didn't. So what you want to do is go ahead and click on edit here, and then you're going to have to go ahead and select your virtual network. So you probably have only one default one, but if you have multiple, just make sure to select the one that you want to install your instance in. So go ahead and select it, and once you have it selected, for some reason it's not showing, but you can see that the check mark is on it. So it means that it is selected, and then you can pick your subnet if you have different subnets. I'm just going to keep it to, again, the default. And you can go ahead and scroll down here, and I'm going to go ahead and generate myself a key pair. And if you want to use existing key pair, you can just go ahead, click here and upload it. But I'm going to generate new ones since I don't have existing ones. So what you have to do here is click on this button to download your private key. And then if you want to download your public key, you can do that as well. I will do it just in case, but the only reason you would want to download the public key will be if in the future you want to use the same key pair. So you want to upload this public key to a new server that you build. That's why we only have to use one private key. Then the next thing that we're going to do is select our boot volume. That will be our disk on our server. The default volume for the instance will be 50 gigs, but you can get up to 200 for free from Oracle Cloud. So if you want to have a bigger disk, you can go ahead and do that. But for this demonstration, I think 50 gigs will be enough. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And then if you have everything selected, you can go ahead and click on create, and that will create your instance. The provisioning process takes a couple of minutes. So while it's going, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple other things here in the console. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and open ports 80 and 443. To open the ports, we're going to go and click on the hamburger in the upper left corner again. And then from here, we're going to go to networking. And from networking, we're going to go to virtual cloud networks. Once in virtual cloud networks, we're going to select our virtual cloud network. And then from here, we're going to go down on the left here where it says security lists. And we're going to select our security list. And here in our security list, we're going to add a new ingress rule. Once you're in your add ingress rules menu, here we can give it 0.0.0.0/0. And this will allow connections to our server from the entire internet. We can leave this to TCP. And down here in destination port, we're going to put port 80. And then we're also going to put port 443. And here we can give it a description. So I'm just going to say allow HTTP and HTTPS, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the rule. And as you can see now, we have port 80 and port 443 open. And the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and reserve a public IP that we're going to assign to our instance. So to do that, we're going to go up on the right corner and click on the hamburger button. And then again, we're going to go to networking. And then from here, we're going to go to reserve public IPs. And from here, you can go ahead and click on the blue button that says reserve public IP address. Then you can go ahead and give the reserve public IP a name. I'm going to call mine WordPress. And you can call it anything you want, but I'm just going to use that name because that IP is going to be attached to my WordPress server. And here you can select the source for your IP. In my case, I'm just going to pick the Oracle. Then you can go ahead and click reserve public IP address, and that will give us an IP. So this will be our reserved public IP. The next thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead and assign this public IP to your instance. So let's go back to instances. Again, I'm going to click in the hamburger menu, compute, and instances. And let's see if our instance is up and running. There you go. As you can see, our instance is up and running. So I'm going to go ahead now and assign that public IP to it. So if you select your instance and then scroll down a little bit here, on the left side, you want to go and click on attached VNICs. And then from here, we're going to click on the primary VNIC, which is this one here. So we're going to click here. And then from here, we're going to go ahead down on the left and click on IPv4 addresses. And once you're in here, we're going to go ahead and click on the three dots on the right. And then here we can click on edit. And from here, what you're going to have to do first is turn off the public IP. And then after that, we'll be able to attach the reserved public IP. So I'm going to go ahead and click on no public IP, go ahead and update. And now that we don't have a public IP, we can go ahead, edit again, and assign our public IP to this instance. I can just go ahead and click here. And then you can go ahead and click update. And now our machine has assigned a reserved IP. Now that we have our public IP assigned and our machine is up and running, the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and create a DNS record that points to this IP. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this IP into my clipboard. And then I'm going to go to my Namecheap domain registrar. And if you're using a different one, you're going to have to follow the process there to how to create a record. But if you're like me and you're using Namecheap, all you have to do is go into your Namecheap account. And then here, all you have to do is click on add record. And in my case, I'm going to add an A record since I'm pointing it to an IP. I'm going to put the IP here and I'm going to call my new site WP for WordPress and it will be .techtutelage.net. So once you have this set, you can go ahead and click here to save the changes. And now I have DNS record that will point wp.techtutelage.net to that reserved IP. And once we have all that done, we can go ahead and try to connect to our server. So I'm going to open my terminal window. And then from here to connect to our server, we're going to do SSH-I. And we're going to give it path to our key. And my key got downloaded in my downloads folder. So I'm going to say downloads and the name of the key. And then for the default user for Ubuntu would be user Ubuntu. And we can actually, instead of giving IP here, since I created a DNS record, I can just give it the domain name. So I'm going to say wp.techtutelage.net. And here you can say yes. Oh yeah, what happened here? Oh, okay. So my private key has bad permissions, so I'm going to have to go and fix that. So to do that, what we're going to do is say chmod, and I can give it 600 and give it path to the key. And once I have that done, then I can go ahead and try to connect to the server again. All right, now that we're connected to our server, I'm going to go ahead and switch to root. And then I'm going to go to root's home directory, and then I'm going to give my root user a password. Okay, now that I have my root user password protected, I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen. And the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and bring my server up to date. And you can do that by running the following command. You can just click enter here and again enter. All right, once we have our server up to date, the next thing we want to do is go ahead and open ports 443 and 80 on the IP tables. So to do that, we're going to say nano etc IP tables, and then we're going to say rules v4. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And that will take us into this file here. And so what I usually do here is I'm just going to copy the rule for port 22. I'm going to go ahead and copy it like this, and then I'm going to paste it twice here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and change the port. So I'm going to say 443 and port 80. So now I'm going to go ahead and exit from the file and make sure that you save it. And the next thing you want to do is run an iptables restore. And that way it will reload your rules from the file and they will become active. Ports 80 and port 443 will be open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run iptables restore. And then you can just go ahead actually and copy this from here, paste it here. Just like this. Now, once we have these two ports open, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and install our Apache server. So to do that, you can run apt install Apache 2. And here you can say yes. You can click OK and OK again. And once we have our Apache installed, we can go ahead to our browser at this point and see if we can access it. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say wp.techtutelage.net, and this should bring us to Apache 2 default page for Ubuntu. So that means that our server is working. We have at least port 80 at this point. We can prove that we have it open, since as you can see it's not secure connection, but our Apache server is up and running, which is a good news. So then I'm going to go back to my terminal. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to install PHP and a bunch of PHP modules that are needed in order to have WordPress up and running. So I'm going to copy and paste here, since it's quite a bit of packages that we need to install, but I'm going to post that in the description under the video. That way you can just copy and paste them. You don't have to type them all. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But basically we're installing PHP and all these PHP modules that are needed by WordPress. So here I'm going to click enter. And once you have everything installed, you can just go ahead and run php-v, and we can see that we have PHP 8.1 installed. And then once we have that all done, and the next thing we want to do is go ahead and install our database. So we're going to use mariadb-server. So all I have to do is run apt install mariadb-server. And here you can do yes. And that will install our database server. And once we have our server installed, we're going to run MySQL secure installation script that will secure our server. So all you have to do is type mysql_secure_installation. And since I don't have a root password set yet, I can just go ahead and hit enter. And here on this switch to Unix socket authentication, I'm going to say yes. And what that will do is I will be able to use my root password that I set earlier for my actual Linux server. I'm going to be able to use that same password for my SQL server. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes here. And then here for change root password, again, since we just set our root password a little bit ago, I'm just going to say no, I don't want to change the password. And for remove anonymous users, we can say yes. Disallow root login. Unless you want to be accessing your database remotely, best thing to do is to say yes here. And remove test databases, again, we're going to say yes. And reload privileged tables now, we're going to say yes. And that's it, our server is all set now. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and connect to the server. So we can say mysql-u and then the name of our user, which is root. Now that you're in your SQL server, there are going to be a few lines here that we have to run that I'm going to just copy and paste. But basically what we're going to do is here with the first one, we're going to create a user. So we're going to call it WP user, and you can change that. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to give him a password called password1. So here I'm going to go ahead and hit return. The next thing that you want to do is go ahead and create database. So again, I'm going to just copy and paste. So create database command is here. We're going to create a database called wp_db. And again, as I said earlier, I'm going to put all these commands in the description under the video. That way you can just copy and paste them. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give all privileges for the database that we just created to the user that we created earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here. And then I'm going to go ahead and flush all privileges. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just exit. All right, now that we have our database created, we have our PHP installed and our Apache server up and running. The next thing that we want to do is go ahead and download the latest WordPress. So to do that, all we have to do is run wget and give this address to it. Again, I'm going to put that in the description under the video. Once you have that downloaded, we're going to have to unzip it. By default, Ubuntu comes without unzip installed on it. So I'm going to go ahead and run apt install unzip, and that will install unzip package, which will allow us to unzip the WordPress. Here you can click OK and OK again. And once we have all that done, we can just run unzip, and latest is the file that we just downloaded from WordPress. All right, once we have everything unzipped, what we want to do is go ahead and move our WordPress into our document root. So the default one for Apache on Ubuntu is var www.html. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that here. So we're basically moving this WordPress directory that we just created by extracting the latest zip file into this location here. And once we move it, we're going to run a couple of commands that would change some permissions here. So the first one, we're going to change the owner. So we're going to make our web server, www.data user and www.data group will be the owner of WordPress and everything that's in it. And then we're going to go ahead and change some permissions here. We're going to set it to 755 to that same directory and everything that's in it. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and create a virtual host for our Apache server. So we're going to put that file in Etsy Apache 2 sites available. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here. And in here, I'm going to paste the directives that's supposed to go into that file. Again, those will be in the description under the video, so you can just copy and paste. And in here, what you can see is that we're creating a virtual host that will be listening on port 80. And the document root for that virtual host will be var www html WordPress. And if you use different name, you could change that. But in my case, I used WordPress. Then for server name, my DNS record, my domain name is wp.techtutelage.name. So this is what I have here. And you're going to have to change that and use whatever you chose. Then here, again, for the directory, it's going to be our root directory, which is var www html WordPress. And here we need to have the follow symlinks and options on, allow override to all, and require all granted directives. We need all this entered. And these two directives here are telling it where to put the logs. So once you have all this in here, you can go ahead and save it. And the next thing you want to do is go ahead and enable your site. So I'm going to go ahead and run this command. Then we need to enable rewrite mode. It's required by WordPress. So I'm going to go ahead and run this command. And after we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the default virtual host. That way that Apache welcome page won't be showing anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this command here that will disable the default vhost. And after I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and restart Apache. And once I have the Apache restarted, I'm going to go back to my browser and try to access my page again. And this time, instead of seeing this Apache default page, I should see the WordPress installation page. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And as you can see, we see our WordPress installation page. It's still not secured, but once we have the process of installing WordPress completed, I'm going to show you how to get a certificate and make sure that this is over HTTPS and it's secured. So here you can select your language. I'm going to pick English. And what we're going to do here is go ahead and click on Let's Go, and we'll get to the point where we're going to have to connect to our database. So for our database name, we're going to put the name of the database that we created. In my case, what I did was wp_db. And if you chose something else, make sure that's what you enter here. For username, I picked wp_user. And for password, I said password_1. And if you chose something other than what I have, make sure that those entries reflect to information that you provided when you created your database. So once you have all this entered, you can leave this to localhost, since our database runs from the same place where our server is, and table prefix, you can just leave it the way it is. Then you can go ahead and click on submit. And then you can go ahead and click on run the installation. Now here you can give your site a name. I'm going to call mine Tech Tutelage WordPress. And for username, that will be your WordPress admin user. I'm going to call mine wp_admin. And here you can give him a password. That's a very strong password. I'm just going to give him something that I can remember. So I'm going to say password1. And it gives you a warning that the password is very weak. But what you can do is you can just confirm here and be okay with it. Again, don't choose password1 like I do. Pick something stronger than that. And for email, you can put your email here. I'm going to put admin@techtutelage.net. And then go ahead and install. And once you have that installed, you can go ahead and log in. So I'm going to say wp_admin for user, and for password it is password1. And say not now. And now you're logged in. Now the next thing that I want to show you is how to make it so you use an HTTPS secure connection. To do that, we're going to go back to our terminal and we're going to install a package called Python 3 certbot for Apache. So to do that, we're going to run the following command. And what that will do, it will install this Apache plugin that will help us to get a certificate from Let's Encrypt, and it will manage it for us. So what we'll do is it will automatically create for us a vhost for HTTPS it will set up the certificate, and at the same time, it will set up a cron job that will check, I believe, every 12 hours if our certificate is due to expire. And once it is due to expire, it will go ahead and renew it for us. So to get certificate, all we have to do is run certbot --Apache. Then here it's going to ask us to use email address. So I'm going to give it again the admin@techtutelage.net. And here you have to say yes and yes again. And it picked that we have one application, wp.techtutelage.net, and this is the one application that we're going to activate HTTPS for. So if you have multiple, they'll be listed here. You got to make sure to select the right one, but in our case, it's only one. So I'm going to say application number 1. And this will go ahead and get me a certificate from Let's Encrypt that will make my wp.techtutelage.net application secured. So once that this is done, I'm going to go ahead back here and I'm going to refresh my page. And as you can see, now my application goes over HTTPS and it's secure. I see that little padlock here. You can go ahead and check on your certificate and we have a trusted certificate. And again, just as a reminder, this is all going to be automatically renewed for you. So if you want, you can just take a look here at this cron job that plugin set up for you. So this will go ahead and run every 12 hours and it will check if your certificate is due for renewal. And if it is, it will automatically renew it for you. And once you have all this done, you can go ahead and start building your WordPress web page. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you liked it, please click on the like button. And if you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe for my channel. Thank you for watching.